So if we take a human being and we sort of look at them as they're made up on three parts, like three balls to a snowman. So we've got the intellectual self, we've got the physical self, we've got the emotional self. And they all interact independent, but they do affect each other. When a child is abused, it affects all three areas. But certain areas can carry on and others can't. Right? So intellectually, a child who's been abused, the younger the abuse, the more damage it's going to cause. Can a child go on to intellectually function? Well, yeah.
Yes, that's the issue, isn't it?
Yeah, in fact, they can do a lot better than someone who hasn't, because there's no complacency there, there's no comfort there. And there's a need to say, I am me, you will recognise me, you will see me.
Well, and people often who've been traumatised develop the intellect to cover up for the emotional deficiency.
Yeah, I mean, someone said to me, the people you deal with, a lot of them are thick, they can't read or write. So I said, they might be illiterate, but there's a reason. Because daytime is safe time, night time is dangerous time. You know, you shut your mind down at night and go to sleep, you're going to get, your vigilance needs to be up and awake. So they develop a hypervigilance, but they become nocturnal because that's when the danger comes. So they'll go to school and they're knackered. And then, of course, they don't achieve too well at school, but they can go on to do really well. You see a lot of CEOs of business have got that narcissistic trait. And of course, it breeds narcissism. And I'm not denigrating survivors because I've dedicated my life and suffered a lot in helping them. But people need to understand, that there's always a trade-off. And the reason it breeds narcissism is because you have to concentrate on yourself.
Yeah.
Safety.
You've got good safety, haven't you? And that's about, always looking and seeing.
Well, children are naturally narcissistic anyway.
Yeah.
But if we don't boundary a kid, then we expand it and it can lead to psychopathy. The two ways you create a narcissist: no love or too much love, spoiling the kid, or giving them none. It's the same thing. You're going to cause problems in that kid's life. And they're going about judgment. Well, we must judge. We have to judge. Because I've gone on a few of these. Oh, that's a bit judgmental. No, it's a natural thing. You as a woman, if you're going to travel home late at night, you go into a train carriage because you prejudged it. You know that certain carriages, certain people there aren't going in there because that man or that man doesn't look right. Go into a bar, you'll judge your environment. A person who doesn't judge is an idiot because you're going to get hurt. It's a natural attribute to survival is judgment. And simple as that. So emotionally, so I say intellectually, yeah, without a doubt, do incredibly well. Physically, wow. I mean, how many people are in these very tough elite regiments in the military have come? I've been hurt. No one's going to hurt me like I've been hurt, And anyone else would, if they had to do that training, say, sod that. And there'll be an anger. There'll be a burning desire. And there'll be a need to be tough, to be hard, because you want revenge, I want to. No one will ever hurt me. Like you can see it when you talk to people. They're like,
And I can also see it in, obviously not a blanket statement, but in certain cases where people who develop that intellect to cover up the immaturity, where that part of them's got stuck.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. Yeah.
And then they go on to be, in inverted commas, successful, and they take on jobs where they got power over other people. Because I often ask myself, I don't think it's a natural thing to want. I don't think that's our part of our humanity to want power over others, to be able to make decisions about other people's lives. And I've often said in professional training, we should be looking at the trauma of people that want those kinds of jobs, because when we get it wrong, they can cover things up, deflect, overpower, ruin people's lives. I don't know how that lands for you.
Yeah, and abused.
Yeah.
I mean, I have power, and anyone with power will abuse it. And you're going to. Have I abused my power? Of course. Why should I be any different to anyone else with power? Of course I abuse power. And hopefully I'll come on to a minute about the difference in gender.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a difference.
Mm-hmm.
People say there's not. There is. There's a fundamental difference in how women abuse, how men abuse.
Mm-hmm.
The proportionality is different, but there's a massive difference. But if we go back to the last bit, the emotional self, can people go on to achieve with the emotional self? No, it ain't happening. Unless you get help, it ain't happening. That clock stops at the age you was hurt. And you will then have the inability to reason and have the emotional maturity to deal with a problem. So an example I always give, there's this viral video. I'm not denigrating the bloke, 'cause I don't know him, but of a motorcyclist cuts someone up in a car. And the guy he cuts up is called Ronnie Pickering. I'm Ronnie Pickering. You know how I am? And threatens to smash this bloke to pieces, cutting him up on his motorbike. Well, as soon as I saw that, I thought, well, Ronnie, go and get some therapy, mate, because I can see a very emotionally broken little man. I see it in the likes of Andrew Tate. The documentary, although I don't particularly like the guy, but Louis Theroux is a tremendous interviewer. He is. You've got to give him his due, because he's a snake. And how he interviews people. When I used to teach detectives how to interview, I said, look at Louis Theroux. Because he does it by acting stupid. It's a wise man who plays a fool. Yeah. And he does that. There's this adversarial thing that comes with interviewing, and so many coppers come back to the power thing, put themselves above. No. You put yourself down there, man. That's how you do it. Especially if you're dealing with sex offenders, because they all think they're clever. And some of them are very clever. Put yourself down there. And someone used to say to me, didn't you want to beat them up? And I went, well, what point would that be? Yeah. Why beat them up? If I beat them up, then they're going to tell the solicitor. There's a chance the injuries on my hand will be conducive to the injuries, you know, on their head or whatever. And not only that, where's that going to take me? Nowhere. I'm going to want to go and visit that guy in prison, you know, after I've convicted him. And I'm going to want to be his friend, because I'm going to want him to tell me about everyone he's been working with. And one paedophile will give me 5. And that's how I work. So who's a successful one? Me, who ends up catching paedophile after paedophile and saving the victims, or someone who just bashes them up? It ain't going to get you anywhere. You know? You want to bash people up, go out, get a job where you can do that. But don't do it in this realm, because it lacks intelligence, it lacks reasoning, and it does. So they have that inability to reason, and you see that all the time. And as an interviewer, I used to look at the value system. I'd look at what does a man of that age value, or a woman, and you see grown men valuing childish things. And a classic example is that Andrew Tate. He values childish things, and of course we've got a society of young men that have been brought up without fathers. The lack of that sort of macho influence in their lives. They think they're a failure, and they see this man. But when you look at him, he's highly intelligent, right? He is. He's physically top of his game. But emotionally, there's no one really who's got a modicum of reasoning and understanding in psychology will say that's a balanced man. It's not. I listened to him once again. I'm not knocking him. I don't even know him. But if you're going to put yourself out there where billions of people view you, you know, at least have a few critics. Do you know what I mean? And, you know, I said, well, what was his ideal day? And it was going on a private jet, having a threesome with 2 prostitutes, drinking champagne and eating pizza. And I'm thinking, you're a grown man.
So the way I would look at that...
That's a 12-year-old's wet dream.
Yes, exactly. That's how I would look at that, is say... So, okay, those are the grown-up toys, you know, the prostitute and the pizza or whatever, the grown-up toys that money can buy you. But at what age would a child want, you know, the child equivalent of that? And that's kind of, so I often look at people at their worst and ask myself, what's the emotional age here?